Hi, everybody. The number one issue right now is the impending trade war between the United States and other countries. And so much of this, at its root, comes down to what is the United States, although the U.S. is hardly alone, going to do about its massive debt? And why were all of these massive debts accumulated? More than anything else, because the U.S. government, as well as other governments, were not operating within their means. And so money was borrowed, money was printed, produced, with debts to be paid by the children and grandchildren of those who were accumulating them. And so it's not a surprise why many people, millennials, Generation Z, are rather resentful of what those who came before them, particularly baby boomers and Generation X, have left them. They have to live in the world which was left to them by their predecessors, and that's true all throughout human history. Are we going to be able to see these things resolved? I sincerely hope so, and I sincerely pray that these matters will be resolved. But it's also true about the religious world we live in. Those who are millennials, Gen Z, have to live with what has been given to them by baby boomers, Generation X, those who have preceded them. Evangelicalism right now is struggling with the issue of Israel, Christian Zionism. Many people are rejecting dispensationalism, which was believed to be the cause of support for Israel, and connected with that, the pre-tribulation rapture, in favor of a covenant theology, replacement theology model, which, while respecting the principles of the Old Testament, which dispensationalism often didn't do, is nevertheless something which believes God is finished with the ethnic descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we're already seeing more and more people say, when the boomers die off, dispensationalism and Christian Zionism will die off with that. And you don't have to be a dispensationalist to support the state of Israel and believe that God is not finished with the ethnic descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But that's one example right now of we have to live in the religious world many left us with, and the impetus for support for Israel from dispensationalism was to accelerate the pre-tribulation rapture and the end-time scenario, among other things. Likewise, we have to live in the Messianic community given to us by the Messianic Jewish pioneers of the late 1960s, early 1970s. They had a huge amount going against them. The belief that a Jewish person could believe in Yeshua, Jesus, and still be Jewish. Huge amount of opposition from the church, huge amount of opposition from the synagogue. And they made sacrifices, and they did extremely vital and important work in seeing congregations established, synagogues established, some kind of a framework of theology. And we are in their debt. Nevertheless, we also have to live with the world they left for us and what they did not do and what they could not do in some cases or would not do in other cases. And, right now, I know that as we look at what's happening in the economy, there are a lot of people who are really ticked off at politicians from 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You weren't thinking long term. You were only thinking about your reelection. You were only thinking about your presumed needs and wants and how you could benefit from the system, not trying to help people who would be coming after you, your own children, your own grandchildren, laden down with all this debt. Likewise, when we see some of the short-sightedness of dispensationalism, some of the errors of dispensationalism, radically separating the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, compartmentalizing things, some of their limitations, we have to forgive them And it's not always easy, because one of the impetuses behind rejecting dispensationalism is that it did not always have a holistic view of the Bible. And when we look at the development of the modern Messianic Jewish movement, and then some of the movements which have spun off of it, some of it by people who had questions which were intended to stir things up and cause problems. Others were caused by people who thought that they didn't have a place and they felt rejected. We all have to live in the Messianic sphere of influence older people have left us with. We do have to forgive some of their short-sightedness. We do have to recognize that they had a lot going against them at their time. And yes, mistakes were made. They were human. We're going to make mistakes. Millennials, Generation Z, we're going to make mistakes as well. Can we at least be honest and upfront and saying, hey, we got human limitations. We're trying the best we can. Let's keep the conversation going. When we recognize that the world left to us by those who preceded us was not always the world we wanted or the world we liked, as we seek to make corrections, let's do our best to learn from those who preceded us, the good and the bad. And when we do make mistakes, and I certainly have made mistakes, you have too, let's be quick to correct them and quick to acknowledge our human limitations and inabilities.